Hi everyone! This video tutorial will show you how to set up the dialogue system for Unity for split-screen multiplayer games. These are games like Mario Kart or It Takes Two, where all of the players play on the same machine and the screen splits to show each player's view. We're starting in a new Unity project that uses the input system package. I've imported the dialogue system for Unity and created a new empty scene. I've also imported some free art assets, but that's for later. Let's first create a floor. Add a quad. Set the X rotation to 90 and scale to 50 by 50 by 1. Create a material. Set the base map to default checker gray and set tiling to 10 by 10. Now we'll create a simple player prefab that's ready for local multiplayer. This is a tutorial for split-screen dialogue, not player controllers, so we're going to keep the player controller as simple as possible. Create a capsule at 0, 1, 0. Name it Player and set the tag to Player. Each player will need its own camera, so create a child camera and delete the default main camera. We'll make this a sort of overhead camera, so set the position to 0, 2, -3, and rotation X to 12. A scene can have only one audio listener, so remove the camera's audio listener. Otherwise, as multiple players join the game, the scene will end up with multiple audio listeners. For this example, I'll just create an empty game object with an audio listener instead. Since this is a multiplayer game, each player will need their own multiplayer-capable event system to interact with UIs. Create a child game object named Event System and add a multiplayer event system component. Click the button to add an input module. Ideally, you'd create an input actions asset from scratch, but for simplicity here, we'll just use the one included in the input system package. And now we can set up the player's dialogue UI. Add a UI canvas for the player. Set it to screen space camera, set the plane distance to 1, and assign the player's camera. Then add a dialogue UI to the canvas. Make sure its rect transform is 0, 0, 0 or whatever is appropriate in your canvas. If your dialogue UI relies on UI navigation, for example to select the Continue button or Navigate Response buttons, at runtime set the Subtitle Panels and Response Menu Panels Event System property to the player's multiplayer event system. An easy way to do this is to download the local multiplayer example linked in the description below and add the Set Player Event System script to the relevant panels and assign the player prefab's multiplayer event system to it. This is the script. It's essentially just one real line of code. Assign the canvas to the multiplayer event system's player root. This lets the event system know which canvas it should interact with. Now back on the main player game object, add a player input component. Assign the same input actions that are assigned to the event system. Assign the player's event system and camera. Notice here that player input's behavior is set to send messages. That's going to be important for later. It's going to tie into this move action in the input actions asset. Now we'll create a very simple movement script. Create a new script named Player Movement. To spare you the tedium of having to watch me type it out, I'll just show the final script. You can pause this video to type this out yourself, or you can just download the example scene from the link in the description below. The key to this script is that the input action asset has an action named Move. Since player input's behavior is set to send messages, player input will invoke a method named onMove. In this method, we record the input value so we can use it to move and rotate the player in Update. Now add this player movement script to the player. Finally, add an override dialog UI component and point it to the player's dialog UI. Then save the player as a prefab and remove it from the scene. Then add a Player Input Manager component to your scene. Tick Enable Split Screen and assign your player prefab. The Player Input Manager will take care of instantiating player prefabs, as well as switching the display between full screen for single players and split screen for multiple players, where each player's event system will handle its own UIs. Add an instance of the Dialog Manager prefab. Tick the Dialog System Controller's Other Settings Allow Simultaneous Conversations. You may also want to tick the Input Device Manager component's Always Autofocus checkbox. Inspect any UIs that are automatically instantiated by the Dialog Manager's Display Settings, Dialog UI field, or the Instantiate Prefabs component. If they have an Add Event System if Needed checkbox, untick it so it won't automatically create a default single-player event system that would conflict with the player prefab's multiplayer event systems. In this example, let's just disable the Instantiate Prefabs component so we don't need to worry about it. Then let's take care of the default Dialog UI, which the Dialog Manager requires but won't actually get used because each player will have its own Dialog UI. Add an instance, untick Add Event System if needed, and assign the instance to the Dialog UI field. Assign the demo database. We'll also set the visibility in the scene view off so that we can see things in the scene more easily. To test the setup, I'm going to grab Sergeant Graves from the Demos Prefabs folder. I'll put him at 005. Change the Dialog System trigger to OnTriggerEnter and set accepted tags to player. Add a Sphere Collider trigger with a radius of 2 and a kinematic rigid body. Now let's test this out. To join the game, I'll press a button on the first gamepad. This is with player 1. We can run up to the NPC and start a conversation. Now I'll press a button on the second gamepad so player 2 can join. And we can run up to the NPC here and start a conversation too. You can, of course, change the characters and the dialogue UI fairly easily to get it looking more like a real game. This example scene is also included in the example package linked in the description below. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to post on the Pixel Crushers forum. And thanks for watching.